is to find the fun. And so like my example of this was back in 2020, I was at a lake house in Idaho, and the lake was freezing. It was 52 degrees out in the water. And I was like, I'm going to do an ice bath and get some mental fortitude. I'm going to go sit out there for 8 minutes. And I went out and I sat neck deep for 8 minutes. And the whole time I'm out there, my two boys are playing in the water. Like they don't even notice that it's cold. Like they haven't found that. Meanwhile, I'm over there focusing on the pain and like trying to get tough as heck. And my boys are just like living in the pain, but not even noticing it because they're just having too much fun. And so for me, it was like, oh man, like I've got the wrong focus. I got the wrong mentality. Like attracts like. When you focus and you put yourself in proximity of what you want, it becomes much more gravitational and becomes much more of like you're getting the things you want.
What's happening? I'm KD Wilson, the podcast creator of I Lead the Way, a personal growth and leadership podcast for you, where we believe here that ordinary people can do extraordinary things if they have the right people and the right resources and understanding of how to get there. So the person that I have on today is a director, film, documentary guru, regardless of what he has to say about himself. He is an athlete. He is a part of the 321 podium crew. Man, none other than my friend and my homeboy, Mr. Heber. Man, how are you?
No, I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Man, I'm jealous of your hair. So mine's a little bit shorter. You kind of got the thing going on, and I dig it.
Got that flow. It takes years.
I'm sure. I'm gonna use that as a segue, man. One of the things that I noticed about you, just kind of doing a little bit of research on my own, because I always like to treat, my podcast guests as the honorees, because you really are. You're all the ones that are taking your time out to come and share your knowledge, your experience, your life's journey with us, man. So just a little bit of my digging. I'm gonna start with that first question, man. Like, I guess there's so much value in progress. And even like just cracking, about the hair and stuff. When I looked at some of your older pictures, you didn't seem like a different person, but there was a different facial expression, if that makes sense, And when I think about just progressive evolution and personal evolution, what's the value in that to you? Because again, when I look at some of your older pictures, you can kind of tell you were just getting started in some things. And when I look at you now, like there's a different fire, in your eyes. And granted, some things have probably changed just throughout your journey. And for those of maybe that don't know, you're still a huge part of the CrossFit world with directing and some of the most dynamic, just documentaries that we've ever seen in the CrossFit games, CrossFit world, that's come largely out of you. But man, what's that growth process been like for you?
Well, I think for me, I don't know how far back that growth process we want to go is, but if we're looking just purely at my Instagram from when it started to where I'm at now, like that covers 8 years of growth. Where I'm at now and where I've spent like the last 4 years doing is really working on me and working on what I want to be doing. So for a long time, I worked for the man. I had a salary job. I was getting a weekly paycheck and was pretty well taken care of working for CrossFit headquarters. And then some things happened and I ended up out on my own for a while. And the biggest lesson I had from that was, where do I want to put my energy and where do I want to be in 5 years? And what do I want to be doing? Like, what does my day look like when I wake up? Mm-hmm. Am I going to an office where I don't want to be there, dealing with people that I don't want to interact with? Or am I doing exactly what I want to be doing? And like, how do I make money doing that? How do I take care and provide for my family doing that? And now I'm living that. Like I get to wake up and go, okay, I've got these things that I got to get done, these tasks that I got to get done. And then I'm going to go to the gym and take care of me and build my future. And I love filming. I love generating content. I love interacting and meeting with people and getting to know people. And now I have this kind of cool job where I get to go out, build relationships with people that I find super interesting, much like yourself that you're doing here with the podcast, and work out with people and really I get to do what I've always wanted to do, which is just work out and make cool stuff.
Come on, man. I mean, that's a picture perfect thing, but in that doesn't come without some loss. It doesn't come without obstacles and hardship. There's absolutely, I'm sure, that point in your life between the transition of coming from, like you said, CrossFit HQ and being a huge part of the production team and stuff there, to transitioning into what you do now, which is phenomenal, by the way. And if you all don't know, Buttery Bros, check them out. Just Google Buttery Bros. It's exactly how it sounds. Buttery like butter bros, and it'll all make sense. I'm not going to give you the ins and outs. Go look it up yourself. But back to you, man. What was it like when, I'm sure, like myself, you had those moments in between that transition where you're like, oh shoot, okay, we're here now, and I know this is going to work. It is going to work. The income's not coming as fast as I wanted to. The resources aren't coming as fast as I want them to. The sponsors aren't showing up like I expected them to. But in my heart of hearts, in my soul, I know this is going to work. What was that like for you, man, to stay in the fire, knowing that a sword was going to come out on the other side?
Oh man, that was a journey. So, I knew it was a long process, it was a fairly long process. So to kind of give the viewer an understanding of what I was up against, I had worked for CrossFit from 2009 all the way through 2018. And in the fall of 2018, they got rid of their entire media wing. And I had poured my life and soul into that office, into that business, into that community. And I was in a place where I was like, do I even want to keep doing this type of content? Do I still want to be doing fitness? Do I want to just go make Hollywood movies? And I went down to LA. I took meetings with different studios and companies down there. But I kept coming back to this idea that I wanted to produce one last documentary about the CrossFit season. Mm-hmm. And whether that was finishing my 2018 movie that I produced like 90% of a movie. We had shot all of it except for like 1 or 2 interviews is all we needed. And so they weren't going to let us do that. So then it became a conversation about like, well, will you let us film a 2019 movie? And I knew it would work financially, but I didn't know how the money was going to come in because, there's different ways to finance a movie, but oftentimes what you have to do is partner with someone that's going to front the production costs to you. And then you have to hope that the movie makes money back and generates enough revenue that both parties win and make money.
Right.
I knew that would be the case, but anytime you partner with someone, there was restrictions on what athletes and what things you could do. And then there's political interests or conversations between like, will CrossFit even allow us to come to the CrossFit Games and film? So there was this whole ordeal where I was like, I keep coming back to this. I keep wanting to make this. I need to start generating revenue because now my savings is starting to run out. So we started this YouTube channel as like a side project to when we were going to start producing commercials. So I was just starting to take projects that got me to places with athletes from brands that were going to pay for commercial work. And then we put this whole thing as like a side thing that, hey, while we're here, we're going to film some behind the scenes and we'll put it on a YouTube channel and see what happens there. And it quickly caught on, became really cool. And within 2 months of doing that, even like 6 weeks of doing that, I was like, that's what I want to do. I don't want to do commercial work anymore. This is what I want to do. I'm done trying to go down to LA. I think I took my final meetings down there in like January of 2019. And then by February, it was like, we're not making money on the YouTube thing yet. I have to figure out how to do that. And in March, I was borrowing money to pay rent. And by April, we had kind of figured it out. But like, I knew there was a big jump we were going to have to make. And so from like February through June, I basically didn't sleep. I was constantly frenetically researching, studying, figuring out basically business and law school on how to like make a proper contract with a company. While also trying to be a fun personality and be good on camera and learning how to be better on camera and what makes a better story and makes it entertaining, to kind of build this brand that we have. And so it was really gnarly for like 6 months there. because like we had some brands on board, but every week I'm having to sell the next week's show until we figured out how to kind of streamline the business side of it. But for sure, those months were a grind, and there were some dark times in there. Like there was a constant, especially with content at that time and content now, really is the timeliness of it is something that I pride myself on. Like I'm really good at not sleeping and editing throughout the night to get the first video up about an event. So like those weeks back, specifically during that time, we would be filming for like a 5-week stretch. I think every Thursday, we'd film an event Thursday, most of the day Thursday, and then Thursday night we would stay up all night editing and publish a video that Friday. And that was something we did every week for 5 weeks straight. And we didn't have like say you did have sponsors on week 1, we didn't have sponsors. Week 2 we had sponsors, but they're not paying you immediately. You get like a 45-day invoice fee, so you're not paid for like 6 weeks on some of these brands. And so like I knew money was coming in, I knew that the end goal was there, but I had to do whatever I could to survive that period where savings is running out, money's coming in, but I'm in a cash flow situation.
Wow. And for those that maybe aren't really a part of the CrossFit world, man, this gentleman has been a part of, again, creating some like just bone chilling documentaries on like some of the greatest in the world, whether you're a CrossFit, enthusiast, fan, if you're a hater, whatever, I don't really care what it is, but Rich Froning, Matt Frazier, Tia Claire Toomey, Justin Medeiros, like you name it, Mal O'Brien, like you've had the opportunity to not only rub elbows, quote unquote, man, but to really be a friend, as we get a chance to see, through social media and through your episodes. And it's exactly what you just said, but that's priceless, man. When that dark moment, that cloud, that transition from chilly to freezing, back into the warmth, like it's worth it, for what you have right now. I can only imagine, because I know for myself, being a viewer and just a fan of the work that you all do, like when I see, the videos and the work that you put in, man, it's colorful, it's bright. Even the colors in the background right now, like just that color of, turquoise and blue, it's life-bringing. It's not like down the dumps. There's nothing about it that's like, oh, humdrum and well, I guess let's click the button and see what he's doing today. No, it's like, okay, what the heck is going on today? Because the other day you had your kid up there and he was running some obstacle course race, through the mud, and you're dragging one of the boys, into Costco or one of the stores. But that's the stuff, man, that lets the world know you're a regular dude, you're an ordinary person doing something very extraordinary. But it didn't come cheap and it didn't come easy, and you had to hustle, you had to grind, and you had to move through it, man. So what has been the value of friendships to you as you've grown and progressed in what you do?
That's what it's all about. Like, to me, whatever money you're making, whatever clout you're getting on social media, like that could all go away. But the Rolodex and friendships that I've built over the last 10 years, 20 years doing this is so incredibly valuable and just fun. Like, to be at that level of an athlete, or not even just athletes, but personality types that are doing some of the most interesting stuff in the world. Like, I get to go hang out with those people and do cool stuff with them. Like, that's, if I wasn't being paid, I would pay to do it, like that's the type of stuff where, you have the most fun is when you're with your friends doing adventures and pushing yourselves to the limits. And to me, that's why I chose this career and why I burned the candle at both ends to be able to do what I'm doing. Yeah,
I love that, man. Tony Robbins said, he said, if you're going to take the island, burn the boat, and when I first heard that quote and that statement, I said, that's such a real, that's real. I was born and raised in the Marine Corps. I'm one of those military kids that kind of hop states my whole life and kind of ended up here. I was a cop for 8 years. So I've been out in the street. I know what it is to, hustle and grind. I was an extreme sports athlete. So I was a rollerblader jumping off like 2-story buildings down crazy stuff. Man, I've always been that guy. But in that, like you said, man, the friendships that come along with your journey, I think for any of us, when it's time for us to take our last breath, we want to be able to look back and not only say, I took a shot at something that was valuable to me. I took a shot at pouring myself into something that was worthwhile. And most importantly, I took a shot at being the best version of myself so that I could be the best version for those I love and those I encountered. And man, I think that's one of the keys to life. I'm a big faith guy, but for me, even just thinking about what unconditional love looks like, you can't do that if you're not putting yourself in situations and times alongside people, again, shoulder to shoulder, walking through things. And like you said, man, just the value of friendship, to you is priceless. And I'm sure that probably sparks so much more creativity, or like you said, burn the candle at both ends, because yeah, I'm going to finish this thing before the wax goes cold. What's that drive, man, that keeps you moving to, like you said, finish through the night and get that first piece out? Because I've done some research on you, like I said, and then just listening to some of just the things you put out into the world, man. I remember sometimes where you were saying one of your goals when you first transitioned into what you do right now is to find that gap in the media space, in the documentary space, and how can we produce something that isn't being produced right now, and how can we get ahead of the curve so that when everybody else is waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, we've been up since 3. What's that thing that kind of keeps you rolling? Because you can burn out, but you're still rolling. So how do you do it?
I think reinventing what you're doing and refinding passion. So like we are lucky enough that every week, basically, we're producing a 20 to 30 minute TV show. And most of the time we're taking care of a general audience. But for me to stay motivated and to stay like excited and creative, I have to think about, like, I basically just wake up and go, what do I want to do? Like what activity, what life journey do I want? What do I want on my life resume? Mm-hmm. And basically I just go, okay, that's what we're going to do. And how do we tell the best story about X, Y, and Z? So like, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was like, hey, I've never done the NFL Combine. I want to do that test. Let's get a bunch of friends together. Let's go head to head and we'll give a winner, some prize. We got, basically it was just an afternoon with some friends in the gym throwing down, and we had a good old time, and we looked ridiculous doing it. And then another time is like, I want to go do this ginormous rope swing down a canyon down in Moab, Utah, which I've never done. It looks absolutely terrifying. And so like now I'm basically spending my free time trying to convince my friends to go down and do this with me, because like that looks like a really fun life experience to have. And so for me, it's like, what do I want to do? What experiences do I want to have? And who do you want to have them with is a big thing. And then when it comes to stuff that's staying up throughout the night, like that's not sustainable. And so you do that when it's necessary for the return on your investment. So like most of the time, like the episode we published today is an episode we shot 2 weeks ago, almost a week and a half ago. So we had plenty of time to be able to be up working on it. There's no need for me to be up throughout the night. I ended up being up throughout the night because rather than editing all day yesterday, I spent time with my kids and did some work stuff that needed to be taken care of. And so I was up till 3 or 4 in the morning last night, finishing my end of that episode. But for the most part, I try to not do that regularly and save those for times where it's necessary, where it's going to be where the juice is worth the squeeze. And put your efforts there versus constantly trying to burn yourself out. And so oftentimes our videos aren't always like, hey, we need to be first to space now. We've got through that. We've proved that concept. And so when we need to, we can pour the fuel there. But right now we're putting the fuel towards other things that gives us longevity in the space.
Yeah, I love that, man. You said, you're making sure there's a return on the interest, right? Like your return on the investment, rather, that it's not something you do every single day, but if it has to be done, be willing to get it done to meet that goal, to meet that hard deadline. And I think there's a lot of people that, are working in that place of trying to grow themselves, and even for those that might be leaders in their business, in their church, in their school, what have you, that are running themselves into the ground because they're trying to meet that deadline every single day, and like you said, man, that there is value absolutely in making sure that something gets done when it needs to get done, because you want to be able to deliver what you said you were going to do. But on the flip side of that, you're no good if you're broken down the side of the road because you're all out of gas, and even with like what you said, like you're not only a part of the documentary piece and working with film and content creation, but 3-2-1 podium. You guys got the shades and glasses going on, which are awesome. There's so many things that you're a part of, which again probably ties just back to relationships. I mean, if you're going to go into a business venture with somebody, you want to be able to trust that person and at least believe in your heart of hearts that you have my best interest in mind, and that I have your best interest in mind. So even with the 3-2-1 podium, I guess kind of talk to us about that. How'd that kind of come about? Because for most people, they would say, oh, I need to stay in my lane in life because this is what I do. This is what I know. So I'm going to pour everything I have into this, which there's value in that, of course, because you don't want to shotgun everything. But to me, it seems like that still ties right back into what you do. Can you kind of explain, I guess, kind of how that partnership and co-founding stuff kind of came about?
Yeah, so there's a couple of stories there. For us, there's a huge win when you know what you know and you know what you don't know, and you're really good at some stuff and you suck at other things, but you can admit it and you can fill the people that need to be doing that and can do it better than you. And oftentimes I tend to be on the side of things where I'm taking on too much and probably things are falling to the side. But when it comes to podium and working with other brands, so there's two different kind of relationships we have there. We have the relationship with Rain energy drinks and Rain Total Body Fuel and Blender sunglasses, or the glasses that I'm wearing here. Those are relationships that are we're just basically we're sponsored athletes for them, and so we work with brands that we really liked and that we were using before I bought Rain drinks. I bought Blender sunglasses. I wore them organically. It was part of what I was already doing. And if I can bring value to them by helping my audience go to their website and buy their stuff or drink their drink, absolutely all for it. And all parties win. When it came to podium, we were approached by some people that wanted to start a new business. And this is something that we hadn't done. This is definitely outside of my historically outside of my comfort zone of can I run a business? But when the second the opportunity came, it was the next evolution of what we were doing, because we'd been working with other brands already, but this was an opportunity for us to do again what we've already done successfully with Buttery Bros, which was build a brand. Buttery Bros is a brand, and we're kind of turning myself and Marston, my business partner, into our own individual brands. And now we're also taking that power that we've got, that wheel that's spinning, and starting to generate other things as well. So with Podium, they came to us. They were like, hey, we want to start a supplement company. Are you guys interested? And we just sat down and defined what the roles were going to be and what it was going to take and where we fit in. And they put us into a perfect position where we have people that are extremely talented at creating. There's so much work that goes into putting the label and the information and whatever stupid stuff that's on here that most people are never going to read, but there's legalities about it. And then also the simple things of the texture of what the bottle feels like when you pick it up, and it has some depth to it. That's what my business partner Paul does. He does that incredibly well. And then also formulating the product and figuring out what does the consumer want next. He does that really well, and we do the marketing and the brand identity really well as well. So together, it's like a superpower that's grown very successfully and been really cool. But that comes back to the relationship thing, is finding people that you want to go to war with, finding people that you want to run into at 3 a.m. in the hallway and not avoid because you don't like talking to them. That's what it's about, is finding people that when you see them, you're like, oh, hey man, we need to catch up about X, Y, and Z. I'm not afraid to have this conversation because there's a relationship of trust here, and we're going to burn the world down by building something great, you know?
Mm.
Maybe
I
not burn
love
the
that,
world down,
man.
but build the
No,
world up.
I knew what you're trying to say. You're not an arsonist. It's okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And I haven't had a chance to start to really try out 3-2-1 Podium, man, but I'm sure it's absolutely awesome. So it's on my to-do list for
Yeah.
sure.
Get some.
Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
send you some.
Do you recommend a particular flavor?
It depends on the product that you're trying out. So we've got 3 products that are available currently. We've got the protein, which is just a whey protein. My favorite flavor is the mint chocolate chip. Then my personal favorite product is our hydro and salt, which is like a BCAA formula with extra salt, Himalayan salt added to it, and some other things to make it just a little bit more about rehydrating while you're like. Gatorade is great if you need sugar, but it's actually not a hydrating formula. Like you drink that and your body doesn't get what it needs when it's sweating a lot. So we've developed hydro and salt as basically a supplement to help you when you're sweating a ton and exerting and want to continue to do that. And then our pre-workout Fuse is awesome. And both of the flavor profiles are the same between the 2 of them. But my personal favorite has been my go-to lately is the blue raspberry slushy, which is pretty awesome. Or the sour watermelon's just my staple.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to try them both out and I'll let you know. That's
Sounds
awesome.
Good.
So people can find that 321podium.com. Is that right?
Yeah, that's our website. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. So you hear it, folks.
www.321podium.com. You can get it everywhere. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So when I think about like you said, the brand, and that was just a perfect kind of segue into something I was thinking prior to. You come off as a very like jovial, happy, like kind of joyous dude. And for some people, that's a part of the brand. You know, once you put yourself out here to be this person, this is what you got to be, you know, which can be people's downfall when it's not something that's genuine and true to who they are. You know, what is something, I guess, about you that keeps you in that place of authenticity? Because like I said, I think with, you know, clients I work with in the past or conferences I might lead on, you know, leadership development, so on, sometimes we'll be talking about like workplace culture, and people end up talking about burnout or talk about how, you know, this person just seemed like they just changed all of a sudden. They did a whole, you know, a 180. Well, no, they probably didn't switch. They've been putting on a mask for so long because the expectations had been that this is who they are. And they were afraid to take that mask off. And now you show the world and, you know, out the door you go. So like, what do you do, man, to keep yourself genuinely and authentically who you are?
Well, I think there's a few things like doing what we do, especially like my parents are always running like worry, hey, your head's going to get too big if you keep doing this, or, you know, like the star power is going to go to your head. So there's different things between like kind of where my focus is on that, and also like a workplace situation where if you're going to work and you're having to hide who you are, you're probably not going to be happy there. And find something to do that you love to do that can figure out a way to make it generate money, essentially. And also be okay not having a lot of money. I think that's a big factor too. Like, what are your goals? What do you want? Like a lot of people, you know, retirement looks like, I just want to hang by the beach with my friends and fish. You can do that as a job. You just might not have a lot of money. Like, you know, your aspirations don't need to be working 60 hours, 80 hours a week to get to that. But for what my focus is to stay authentic to me, it's maximizing time with my family and my kids. Like that's what keeps me humble. That's what keeps me grounded. And that's where a lot of my energy goes. Like we've talked a lot about the Buttery Bros and my focus there, but the other flip side of that is what I'm doing off camera, which brings me the most amount of joy, is the family time, spending time with my kids. Like before this, I was out in the front yard pulling weeds and raking and doing yard work with my 2 boys, and seeing them excited about cutting down a tree is, you know, just the simplest joy ever. But like, it reminds you that you want to stay curious. You want to stay, you want to stay excited about life, and nobody's more excited about life than a 6-year-old that has a new pair of clippers, you know?
Yes, my oldest son just turned 6. So my daughter's 7. She'll be 8 in December. My oldest boy just turned 6. My youngest boy just turned 3. So
And you got a full house.
we were wide open, brother. Come help. But I mean that's very true. You know, my I guess family and life situation was different growing up. Not so much of the same interactions and I guess being present, if you will, that I'm able to have with my kids. So I 1 trillion% agree with what you just said. That I think there are usually two things that motivate people. It's either happiness or pain, you know. And if there's something you've experienced that hurt, that sucked, you know, you tell yourself, I'm going the opposite direction of that thing. Or if there's something that brings you joy consistently, you're like, I'm going towards that thing, you know. And like you said, for you, and for all of us for that matter, obstacles and encounters of hardship are going to come. It's a part of life. It's a normal thing. But at the end of the day, knowing that I can come home, you know, and it just reminds me of when I was cutting my grass, I think last week, my boys came out on the porch and looked at me. There's waving, you know, like I was on some spaceship or something. I'm like, what's up? I'm just cutting the grass. And they're doing this number of like, you know, kind of signaling, can I come out there? So I slow down and then they get on. I put some headphones on because the riding lawnmower is loud. And we just did circles, you know, with the blades pulled up and they're driving the lawnmower, quote unquote. And you would have thought that they just won, you know, a new car. Like you said, it's the smallest things of giving your 6-year-old a pair of clippers and said, hey, buddy, this side of the bush is yours to cut. Let's see what you got, you know, and then coming back and reaching for that affirmation. Dad, did I do a good job? Like, what do you think? Those are life lessons, man, that we're able to take not only from ourselves and our past, but we're now teaching them how to treat other people as they grow up, you know? So I guess that would make me ask the question, like, what's the value, man, but what's a lesson that you've learned that you've already taught to your boys, or something that you are determined to instill in them?
Something they teach me that I don't know that they teach me, but I don't know, they're not doing it intentionally, but it's super helpful for kind of all of this, which is to find the fun. And so like my example of this was back in 2020, I was at a lake house in Idaho, and the lake was freezing. It was 52 degrees out in the water. And I was like, I'm going to do an ice bath and get some mental fortitude. I'm going to go sit out there for 8 minutes. Then I went out and I sat neck deep for 8 minutes. And the whole time I'm out there, my 2 boys are playing in the water. Like they don't even notice that it's cold. Like they haven't found that. Meanwhile, I'm over there focusing on the pain and like trying to get tough as heck. And my boys are just like living in the pain, but not even noticing it because they're just having too much fun. And so for me, it was like, oh man, like I've got the wrong focus. I got the wrong mentality. Like attracts like. When you focus and you put yourself in proximity of what you want, it becomes much more gravitational and becomes much more of like you're getting the things you want. And so when you're focusing on the fun and you're enjoying whatever the process is, you can find joy in anything, whether that's playing in freezing water or sitting neck deep in it, whether that's going and doing a workout that you know is going to make you better, or, finding ways to enjoy cutting the lawn or doing menial tasks, and focusing on the positive. You start to notice the positive more, like that idea that when I buy a car, all of a sudden I'm noticing that other people drive that car all the time. No, it's just that you notice it now. You're paying attention. You're looking for it. And so when you're looking for the fun, when you're looking for the positive, it's so much easier to not recognize the negative and not see it. And you have to pay attention. You have to be aware that it's there. You can't just be oblivious. But the more you're able to focus on joy and spread that, the more happy you're going to be. And that's all we really want.
Wow. That's so true. One of my friends had asked me recently, actually it was yesterday. I was at a conference yesterday, shout out to Oklahoma DECA and BPA. And it was 2,000 young scholars, man, from all around the state of Oklahoma that came together. It's Business Professionals of America. And it was just a wild conference. And I had a chance to be the keynote for them. And one of the guys, the young man in the back, came up and he was like, man, how do you do it? And I was like, how do you do what? And he said, how do you how do you get up on stage and talk in front of so many people without just being terrified? And he was like, and by the way, how old are you? Just a random question. The two kind of came together. I said, well, dude, how old do you think I am? He was like, I don't know, like 27 or something. I'm 39, dude. And he was like, you're 39 years old? He's like, well, you look like it. How do you do it? I said, well, one thing that I figured out a long time ago, man, that aging is not optional, but getting old is a choice. Like that aging is something that comes along with maturing in life. We all start as a baby and we grow into our elderlyhood, if you will. But man, the process of getting old is way more of a mentality than it is something that physically happens to your body. The same way that vision really isn't even aligned with your ability to see with your physical eyes. Because if you think about Stevie Wonder, think about Ray Charles, some of the greatest visionaries in the music world that you'll ever see, but they couldn't see with their physical eyes. So I think that's such a valid statement that, like you said, you will gravitate towards what you focus on. And even as a former officer, man, when I would get to like a wreck scene and somebody would say, I started losing my brakes and I saw a telephone pole. I told myself, don't hit the pole. Like, what'd you hit? The pole. I'm like, why? You were focused on the pole. So your brain's telling you avoid this thing, but your subconscious saying, hey, dude, turn right at the thing you're paying attention to and slam right into it. So it's such a very simple mindset, but such a massive shift. And that absolutely turns into what you said. What you focus on is what you end up fulfilling, whether it's self-fulfilling or not. So when I think about focus, kind of coming back to you, man, as a director, as someone that is a walking visionary, what's your process, man, for getting in your zone, for really creating a space of vision and focus to kind of see it through to the end?
There's a lot there. And it depends on the scope of the project and how much time is dedicated to it. But so for documentaries and even for like the YouTube stuff that we're doing now, my process is filling my cup first before I drain it completely, because that's what it takes. And so like if I know I have a long night of editing, I'm not going to be good or happy if I haven't worked out first, and if I haven't eaten right, and if I haven't had enough of me time or enough of like what I want to be doing before I dive into a long session at my computer where I have to be really zoned in. And so I don't know what it is about fitness and working out, but that to me is a non-negotiable in my day. I have to work out. And so I've got, gym equipment here in my home. I've literally bought a house as close as I could to the gym that I love to go to. That's my home gym. Shout out Excel Fitness. And I make sure that that's a priority in my day and that I get it done. It doesn't matter if it's early or if it's late. It's just something I've got to do before I really I can try to zone in. And there's times where I've had to do that, but for me to be as creative at my max potential creatively, I first have to do that. And that does, the 60 minutes I spent going to the gym, oftentimes it's longer than that, who cares, whatever. The time I spend to do that is going to pay off way more in the hours of editing later, where my brain cells are firing and I'm thinking creatively and correctly and zoned in as a result of the effort that I put in earlier that day.
Absolutely. So you're speaking my language now. I'm not some massive bodybuilder, man, but like you said, like there's something about going to the gym or getting your body active that allows openness, if you will. Because I feel closed off. Like if people are like, hey, what's your me time? Give me an hour. If I only have 30 minutes, so be it. I will be a little bit grumpy because I want more time than that. But let me get to the gym for a solid hour and 15, hour and a half. I'll say it for 3. I don't really care. But there's something about, man, just knowing that you pushed yourself that day. And sometimes it's not even about getting like your max reps, or whatever. Sometimes it's just about moving. It's just something about just the rotation of knowing that you weren't sitting in some sedentary, lifestyle where I'm just stuck because here I am. And I think for a lot of people, they fall into that trap of not realizing the difference between, waiting and sitting. There's two different things. Like when you're waiting on something, that's intentional. That's still an actual action. But when you're just sitting still in life, man, like, what are you doing? So for me, if I'm waiting on something because something greater is coming my way, great, because I know there's going to be a payoff in the end. But man, getting myself active and moving and staying alert, like you said, allows me to work through the night, because I do it quite often as well. When my kids go to bed, that's when my office hours start, and because I'm present during the day, and I'm putting together content, or I'm starting to at least. And there's just so many things. But man, I'm a different person. That's my coffee for the day. Let me go to the gym, and then I'm good. Because if not, and it's been like 2 days, I'm not like.
Oh, dude, if it's longer than 2 days, I'm like, my wife will be like, "Hey, you're not having dinner with us. You're gonna go work out." Like it's like that. It'd be like that sometimes.
It absolutely does. It does, man. And I've only got a few more questions for you. I greatly appreciate your time. It's been awesome chatting with you so far. But with that, I know for me, my wife still is a CrossFitter. Shout out to CrossFit Versatile in Greensboro, North Carolina, if you're around here. But I love the dynamics of CrossFit. I've always been, like you said earlier, curious. I went from skating to triathlons to men's physique competitions to, whatever else. And I started.
You run the gauntlet.
Yeah, but it's just a matter of like figuring out like, what's your thing? Like at some point, I'm going to do an Ironman, and I'm pumped about it. I want to go this swing thing you were talking about now. I got to figure out what that is. So I'm going to go do that, and I'm serious too. But like when I think about like what draws me in, because I've always been that guy in my group that somebody's like, hey, who's going to run out into the rain, and dance for a little bit? I'm that guy. And it's not because I'm looking for attention or anything. There's just something about the freedom of knowing there's something there, and we don't have to be so confined to what the world says you have to be. You don't have to fit into this perfect box or circle or think inside of or outside of anything, like create something new to the best of your ability. So I know for me, when I was starting into CrossFit, man, it was just the fascination of so many dynamic movements. Now I am mobility, frustrated. So that's as far as I go. That don't flip back.
We got to get you on a GoLod membership, bro.
Yeah, yes, I need to. But when it comes to like just explosive stuff, man, like the rings and bar muscle ups, I love that stuff. That's fun for me. What was the draw into CrossFit for you?
Cool. For me, so my CrossFit journey started back when the movie 300 came out. Remember that movie?
Yes.
Shout out to Mark Twight. He's the guy that trained those guys. So he's this guy that I geeked out on the filmmaking because I'm a filmmaking guy, and I started watching behind the scenes videos. And there's this video about how they train these athletes, and I was watching how they trained it, and I was like, that looks like Rocky IV, but in real life. Like, that's what I've been wanting to do this forever. So in high school, I would go to school in the morning, then I'd leave there. I'd go to a boxing gym and I would box for a few hours, and then I would go to a swim team. This is like a general 3 months that I did this. And then I would always alternate my physical activities. I rollerbladed for a time. But so I would swim, and then I'd go home and I'd lift weights. And so I was doing all of these different physical activities because I was just interested in what my body could do. Like, what can I physically perform? And then I saw how they trained these actors for this movie that have absolutely no reason to be doing muscle ups or ring work or be able to move like that, but they're doing it. And the logic and the theology as to why they were doing it, I was like, I like this. This connects with me. And so when somebody showed me a CrossFit gym like 2 months later, I was like, oh, it's like what they did there. I have to go try this. And the guy that told me about it was overweight, and he beat me incredibly bad on this workout. And I was like, how are you, like, you are not more fit than me. I've got abs. Like, how are you able to beat me in this? Like, you're moving longer and further and stronger than I am. And so I, of course, immediately went home and ran 8 miles and then joined a gym like a week later. And so, but for me, the drive there was always to figure out what I'm always fascinated by. There's the aesthetic side of it, which is like, I want to look good. I want to look like I'm fit. I think that's something that I lost track of for a while. But my goals constantly shift from, do I want to be the most fit person by the parameters of what CrossFit has, which is work capacity across broad time and modal domains, meaning that how much are you physically able to do for what length of time, whether that be, a 30-second sprint to like an 8-minute mile long run, or even an Ironman, or longer term as life. Like, how much are you able to do across 90 years of time on earth? Like, how much physical activities are you able to do? And so I love that idea of being able to do as much as possible and push the parameters of what my life experience is. I mean, this goes back to what we're doing with the Buttery Bros. Every day I'm waking up and I'm like, what do I want to do that I haven't done? I can't do a backflip, and I've tried on the show multiple times and like almost broke my neck, and my wife freaks out every time I do it, but I'm damn well going to get my backflip at some point in my life. And at some point in my life, I'm going to lift a 225-pound stone over a 5-foot target, whatever the yoke is, that I have failed multiple times on the show, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to get stronger, and I'm going to push myself to be able to say that I can do that. All right, what's the next thing? You always set goals, you try to work to those goals. And I always fall victim to like, I've got too many things that I'm trying to do. And so now in the last like 9 year and a half, I've really narrowed into, I want this to be my goal. I'm going to do everything I can for this while still maintaining everything else so that I can stay functional and do my job essentially. And so, finding goals, finding new things. And I was attracted to this sport because I love the concept of being the most capable human on earth.
Yeah. I think for sure, like you said, man, when I watch just the output of Tia and Mal and, Katrina, like so many of them, it is bananas. Like when you look at it, people say, oh, he's doing a handstand push-up. No, he's walking on his hands for a half a football field, like stopping and then doing a handstand push-up with no support, and then walking up a ramp and then coming back. Like, it's craziness. There's the amount of athleticism. But I think a lot of people forget that not only is it the physical part, man, but it's also the mental part. It's the spiritual part. It's the friendship piece. Like, there's so many components that come into becoming elite and top of the top, like best of the best. I think for a lot of people, they assume that, oh, well, you're just some, genetic, freak that's just come natural to you. And sure, there might be some people that are built a little bulkier, or maybe their metabolism burns a little faster so they can get places a little bit quicker and so on. But if you're going to call yourself like the best, like Tia was talking about it on one of the interviews she did, and she said that I would say, and I'm paraphrasing, that, that she takes her job just as seriously as any other professional athlete for any sport that's been around for a long time. And I'm like, heck yeah, because you're swimming, you're biking, you're running, you're lifting, you're throwing. Oh, we're doing mountain biking now. Great. We're doing skydiving next. You don't know what's going to be.
100%. Yeah. So, they have to be ready for it. Like, my argument as to why it's different than other professional sports and almost takes more time is they have to learn more. Like, if I'm playing basketball, I don't want to dumb down the idea of basketball not being as hard, but they have one element that they're focusing on, or one sport. This is like every sport, like they do have to figure out how to swim better, how to be a gymnastics person, how to ride a bike better. And, how far do I have to lean when I'm turning on a bike to be more efficient when I'm going around a corner? And, how do I flip turn when I'm underwater? And how do I position my body when I'm picking up a 400-pound stone or 350-pound sandbag? Like, those are literally events that took place at the CrossFit Games last summer that athletes are studying and figuring out how to do. Like, how can I be more efficient with the jump rope while also being able to deadlift 500 plus pounds? Like, there's a wide spectrum of what they're studying. But what I would argue about, so with CrossFit, there's two different elements of the CrossFit world that kind of go head to head, which is CrossFit and what the gym provides you there is a community and friendship and, the community basically is what I'm getting at. Whereas the elite athletic part of it, that's a solo mission for a lot of people. Like they have a team, it's a selfish endeavor. But they're often just, some of the fittest people I know are working out at absurd hours just to get it in their basement alone. Like Matt Fraser for years was in his parents' basement, which had a lower ceiling than where I'm at right now, and would spend hours rowing. And like, that's not fun. That's not a community event. That's just him in his basement getting freakishly fit. So, again, what is your goal? Is your goal to be the elite Tia Toomey? And what is that effort versus I want to be the best business person. I want to be the best father. And the gym and the community that I'm building there is a tool that's helping me grow this avenue of my life.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%. And I think there was a documentary out some time ago, which probably was yours, but they were talking about how it was just that a lot of people misinterpret or have a misunderstanding of what CrossFit is. And they assume that for any ladies that, I'm going to blow up and become this big muscle bound woman, She-Hulk, and, I don't want to do that, and then for the guys like, I'm no Matt Frazier, I'm not this person. Like, well, who is, like that's like you said, for the people that are going to be like the best of the best, they have to isolate and kind of get off into a different space. You don't see Navy SEALs walking around, this in Planet Fitness doing whatever else like everybody else does. Those guys are off doing, missions and training and stuff when everybody else is still asleep, but like you said, the flip side of that coin is the beauty of the box, the CrossFit gym, where there is that camaraderie. There's that healthy competitive edge where you got your best friend or your best buddy, or even somebody that's just, you see him every single day, but you guys are close on the leaderboard and you're trying to see who can get that next thing in. But there also might be an 80-year-old lady that comes in there and wants to get on the rower, because she's going through rehab, with knee replacement or whatever. You never know. But again, that's the beauty of it, man, that it truly is open for everybody. I see kids, of course, in safe environments where they're watching their parents like just change. And for a lot of people, man, they don't realize how much of a difference it makes when your body is in a different form, a different shape. And not that you have to be some, again, elite athlete, man, but like you said, and like myself as well, it's not even a matter of priding yourself in being physically fit, but just knowing that I can get out and play with my kids, knowing that if the car breaks down, I can push it, long enough to get my family to a safe place or whatever. So for me, I'm trying to think ahead with some of those things. And man, it made such a difference when you don't have to worry about getting out there and taking a knee and, clipping the bushes with your boys. And because, you kind of let yourself go, so I've seen people come in and just transition and shift, and their life literally changes. And people start to ask them questions like, man, what have you been doing different? Like what? And I'm sure you've probably seen it before. Like what's the golden thing? Like, what's the golden ticket? It's perseverance, it's hard work, it's commitment, dedication, but it's also family and community. And I think CrossFit does that.
Yeah. There's other gyms, there's other functional training methodologies out there that are great. From my experience, there nothing has come as close to what I've experienced in a CrossFit gym.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Man, my last question for you, my friend, I ask everybody the same question. In what way are you leading the way? So how would you say, man, when it comes to me, when it comes to my life, if someone's looking at me and they're saying, you know what, like we're all flawed, but here's one area of that man's life where, he doesn't have it all down, but he's consistent, he's committed, and he's leading. What would you say about yourself when it comes to leading?
So our mission statement is to spread butter and spread joy. And so for me, it's providing joy in dark times. Like it's so easy to be enthralled, engrossed, and caught up in the negative media that's available just at a ridiculous rate. Like the number 1 and 2 shows on Netflix right now are like absurdly dark movies. And people love that stuff. And it's easy to get into the salacious news and salacious ideology and focus on the drama. But very much what I've built with the Buttery Bros, or we've built with the Buttery Bros, and the brand that I'm focusing on building in myself is something that people remember as being joyful and happy, and makes you want to be, makes you feel happier as a result of having watched it, feel lighter, feel motivated to go do something with your life. And whether that's getting into the gym and putting in some sweat equity, or whether that's cleaning up your diet, or whether that's just spending time doing something that you love that makes you happier, like that's what I want people to experience when they interact and hang out with me, whether virtually through our shows or social media or in person. And so for me, like, it comes back to spreading butter, spreading joy, and just making sure everyone has a smile after we hang out, you know?
Well, I'm smiling, man. So you won. You're 10 for 10 right there. Man, I mean, you literally just did exactly what you said your mission was, because the first thing that popped in my head was, oh, it's time to smile, because that was a legit statement. So man, again, thank you so much for your time, man. Shout out to everything you're a part of, 321 Podium, man, Buttery Bros, Rain Energy, everything else that you're a part of, dude. Just continue doing what you're doing. You really genuinely are one of those people that, like I said, even not really knowing you personally, when I see you on screen and when I see what you post and what you're doing, you are literally creating an avenue of joy and happiness and brightness, you know, in a world that at many times can be very gray and very dark. But all it takes, man, is one candlelight for somebody to know what direction to go in a dark room. And just keep that light burning, man. And we absolutely appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Love it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Thanks a lot.